Picture this. You have been saving for 3 years. You check your balance. It says $11,400. You do the math. At this rate, $100,000 is still 6 years away. So you buy the jacket, you book the trip, you tell yourself you will get serious next year. And that decision, that completely understandable, completely human decision, is the reason most people never find out what happens on the other side of $100,000, because something does happen, something the math alone does not capture. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what it is. My name is Chris, and I study the exact mechanisms that separate people who build wealth from people who understand wealth but never build it. If you want to think about money the way almost nobody does, subscribe and hit the like button. Let us get the math out of the way fast because you deserve to understand it. And then move past it. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner and one of the most precise financial minds who ever lived, said this at a Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. He was answering a question from someone asking how to get started building wealth. His answer was blunt. The first $100,000 is a witch. You have got to do it. I do not care what you have to do. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. That is not inspiration. That is a diagnosis. Here is why the math justifies that urgency. Save $10,000 a year, earn 10% annually. Your first $100,000 takes 8 years. Your next $100,000 takes 4. The one after that takes 3, then 2.5. Each milestone arrives faster than the last. Same person, same discipline, same return, but the math is not linear. It is exponential. A 10% return on $10,000 is $1,000. A 10% return on $100,000 is $10,000. Same risk, same time, 10 times the result. That is capital scale, and it is real. But here is what those numbers are hiding. Before you hit $100,000, you are in a gravitational field. Every unexpected expense pulls you back. Every job loss pulls you back. Every market dip pulls you back. You are fighting to stay airborne, and the fuel cost is enormous. It costs you discipline, sacrifice, and years. There is a specific point at which the math changes. I call it the escape velocity threshold. Here is how precise it actually is. If you are saving $10,000 a year and earning 10% annually, your investment returns in year 1 are $1,000. You contributed $10,000, you're doing 91% of the work yourself. At $50,000 invested, your returns are $5,000. You contributed $10,000, now you are doing 67% of the work. At $100,000 invested, your returns are $10,000. You contributed $10,000. For the first time in your financial life, your money is doing exactly as much work as you are. That is not a metaphor. That is the actual calculation. The exact moment your money becomes your equal partner. And past that point, the math tips further in your favor every single year. Below the threshold, a bad year can erase months of progress. Above it, your portfolio keeps generating returns even when you cannot contribute a single dollar. You become partially decoupled from your own labor. That decoupling is what wealthy people mean when they say they no longer worry about money. It is not that they have more than they need, it is that their money has become structurally self-sustaining. Warren Buffett started investing at age 11. He was not playing around. He filed his first tax return at 14. He ran a paper route, a pinball machine business, and a partnership by the time most kids were learning to drive. His first $100,000 took him until he was approximately 30 years old. 13 years. For Warren Buffett, the man who compounded money at rates no professional investor has ever matched, the man who understood the math of compounding better than anyone alive. He still spent 13 years grinding through the exact same slow, discouraging early phase that you are in right now. The slow phase is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is a sign that you are doing it right. It is the only path that exists. But if Buffett already understood the math, if he could already see with complete clarity exactly where the compounding curve was heading, then why didn't he quit? What does a person need beyond understanding to survive 13 years in the gravitational field? UCLA researcher Hal Hershfield found something that begins to answer that question. He showed participants age-progressed photographs of themselves, i.e. what they would look like at 65 or 70, and then measured their saving behavior. People who saw their future selves saved over 30% more than people who did not. The reason most people fail to save is not laziness. It is not ignorance of the math. It is that their future self feels like a stranger, a genuinely different person. And it is psychologically very difficult to make meaningful sacrifices for a stranger. Buffett did not have this problem. From a young age, he described his future wealth in specific terms. He planned in decades. His future self was not abstract. It was vivid, real, and worth protecting. The people who reach $100,000 are not more disciplined than the people who do not. They are better at making their future self feel like someone worth fighting for. Now, here's the part nobody tells you. The reason you stall is not weakness. It is not ignorance. It is biology. Your brain was not built for this. It was calibrated over 200,000 years for a world of immediate threats and short-term survival. A world where delaying gratification could get you killed. That brain is now being asked to consistently choose a number on a screen 30 years from now over something real and present today. It was never going to do that easily. Economists called the specific mechanism hyperbolic discounting. The further away a reward is, the more your brain discounts it. Not slightly, but dramatically, and $100,000 when you have 8,000 saved is so far away that your brain treats it as effectively imaginary. So when you are standing in a store and you see something you want, your brain is not making a mistake. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The jacket is real. The threshold is not yet. You are not failing because you are weak. You are failing because you are human. There is a second force working against you, and it is less obvious. Behavioral economist James Dusenberry found that spending behavior is driven less by your own income than by the habits of the people closest to you, which means some of the spending you feel guilty about was never entirely yours to begin with. You are not overspending because you are undisciplined. You are overspending because you have been socially calibrated, without realizing it, to a spending norm set by people around you. The pull to spend is rarely coming from inside you. It is coming from outside. And then there is the scoreboard problem. When John D. Rockefeller was 16 years old, before he had a single meaningful dollar, he started keeping a personal ledger. Every cent earned, every cent spent, every cent saved. Researchers who studied that ledger later found something important. Rockefeller did not track his money because he was obsessed with wealth. He tracked it because the numbers made progress visible. The scoreboard made the game feel worth playing. Below the escape velocity threshold, the scoreboard is working against you. The sacrifices are concrete. The gains are invisible. Your brain cannot register progress it cannot see. That is not a character flaw. That is a design flaw. Like in the instrument you're using to run the race, and here is the part that makes it worse, like 1 year. That is what most people think they are losing when they delay starting. 1 year of contributions, they are wrong. Every year you spend getting ready to start is not just a lost year of saving. It is a lost year of compounding on everything that savings would have produced. It is a lost factory, one your future self will desperately need and can never rebuild. The numbers are specific. A single $1,000 monthly contribution delayed by 1 year cost your future self roughly $17,000 in compounding over a 30-year horizon. Not from the missing contributions, from the compounding on those contributions alone. Every year of delay, you are not standing still. You are dismantling capacity that does not come back. Getting ready is not neutral state. It is a decision, and that decision has a price, one that compounds just as quietly and just as relentlessly as the portfolio you have not yet built. Here is something I want you to understand about what happens on the other side. Two things change at $100,000. The first is the math. If you have $10,000 saved and the market drops 20%, you lose $2,000. At a $10,000 annual savings rate, you need roughly 2.5 months of contributions just to return to where you were. During that entire recovery, your portfolio is contributing nothing. You are doing all the work alone. If you have $100,000 saved and the market drops 20%, you lose $20,000. That sounds worse. But while you are rebuilding through contributions, your remaining $80,000 portfolio is generating roughly $6,000 to $8,000 in annual returns alongside you. Your money is helping you recover. You are no longer alone in the rebuilding. The asymmetry is real. Losses hit hardest early. Recovery accelerates late. This is not consolation. It is math. The second change is how the financial world begins to respond to you. Below the threshold, most institutions treat you primarily as a credit risk. Above it, the same institutions begin to see you differently, as someone worth competing for. Better loan terms, better rates, and different conversations become more accessible. The threshold does not just change your math, it changes what is available to you. Here is the thesis. The first $100,000 is not a financial milestone. It is an escape velocity threshold. Below it, you are fighting gravity. Every setback pulls you back towards zero. Every sacrifice feels disproportionately large compared to the visible gain. The game feels rigged because in a mathematical sense, it is. The early phase demands the most from you and returns the least. Above it, the physics change, your money becomes a co-contributor, losses become recoverable. The financial world responds differently, and perhaps most importantly, you have proven something to yourself that no market can take away. You have proven that your system works, not the stock market, not compounding. Your system. The non-negotiable rule you committed to. You pay your future self before you pay anyone else. Before rent. Before the subscription you forgot about. Before the jacket, your future self gets paid first. Everyone else gets what remains. That is the system. Not a strategy, not a framework, a rule. Now here is your one action before you close this video. Stop tracking your balance as your primary scoreboard. The balance is too small. It moves too slowly to feel real. Your brain will discount it because that is what your brain does. Start tracking your velocity number instead. Your velocity number is your monthly contribution. That is it. How much are you sending to your future self this month? $200, $500, $1,000. The market is not within your control. The balance is not within your control, but the velocity number is entirely yours. Write it down, put it somewhere you will see it, make that your scoreboard until the escape velocity threshold makes the balance impossible to ignore. Two numbers, that is all you need to carry out of this video: escape velocity and velocity number. One is the destination, the other is how you know you are moving. If this shifted how you think about money, check out our last video. Do this every time you get paid. The system we talk about there is exactly the kind of system that gets you to the threshold faster. Link is right here. Subscribe if you are serious, and I will see you in the next one. The jacket was never the problem. Neither was the trip. The problem was never wanting things. The problem was quitting before gravity had a chance to become irrelevant. Most people live their entire lives just below the threshold. Close enough to see it, never quite close enough to cross it. Not because they were not capable, but because nobody told them that the early phase is supposed to feel like this, that the slow, discouraging, invisible progress is not a signal that you are failing. It is the engine running, and the moment you stop is the moment you never find out what happens on the other side.